Hello and welcome to another Random Code stream. I am going to be working out in this stream the digit separator analyzer and refactoring that I've been working on for the last 4 Random Code streams. Let me get my background music going here. So I think we're actually at a good point with this, and we can start doing the code fix portion of this. So when you write analyzers and code fixes, you can write an analyzer without a code fix, but you can't write a code fix without an analyzer. But you can write a code fix with an analyzer. So in this case, I definitely want a code fix, and so that's what I'm going to be adding in right now. So let's actually get the code fix portion in. It's a simple one. We can probably this one actually. Yeah. Get the right name. All right. Most of this is just the boilerplate that we need. There. All right. Might need to change the title here. Let's just put that in here. Add. Wait. Digit separators. Now this is also something I just realized where I might need to put in a flag to say, well, no, if it has the, I forget what I call it, the prefix part, that would be the 0x or 0b. If that exists, then we want to give 2 or 4. Otherwise, we want to do. So we might need a. We might need a different title for each of those. And. Naming is hard. What do I want to call this? Add digit separators. Seems weird that we would do this. But whatever. Okay, so now we get down here, and what we want to get is that. Right, because that's what we're... Oh. We want to change that. we want that to be the actual literal, because then we can use that there. Our literal information. Oh, crap. Huh. I just realized something. The thing that I want is in here. Oh my God. This is beginning to become a mess. And we get set back one step. What I'm complaining about is that this type is in this project. This project also needs it. So what I did is I create a shared project where I can just stuff code that both of these use. And so what they end up doing is they end up compiling in whatever code is in this thing. The shared project, it's just code. It doesn't have any package references or anything like that. But like all these polyfills, all of them are going to now have to be put in completions. Which I could put them in shared. Yeah, and I'm just saying transpire. At some point, I think I might have put in with the with a task is to make that share project like a project that then I can actually include into the package and those projects, and it will all work out. So that will take some finagling to get the package to work correctly. And I don't want to do that right now. The shared project is simpler. It just duplicates code within both projects. But I don't see a way to get around this. So what I'm going to need to do is we're going to need to cut this and then put that here. Now the polyfills don't have a name associated with this. We need to cut, put here. Now we have tests around it in analysis. That's good enough for now, you know. So if we go into the analyzer here, all that should still work. And now if we come into here, now it knows what it is. But it's duplicating code, which is not the greatest thing in the world. Okay. Now, if we would have got to the code fix portion, we would have known that it needed separators. So now what we need to do is say if literal information dot prefix does not equal string dot empty, then we want to offer 2 and 4 spacing. Else offer 3 spacing. Okay. So what I want to do here, private static void offer spaced literal. And so what we want to do here let's say we would have that. Then we don't need to do that. Oh, that's right, because you have to put that around. That's one of the unfortunate things about await, is that you have to do that. Now what we're going to get is string new literal text. So what we're going to be making is a new node. This is all going to change in just a second. But we're going to put this here, and then we need the context. And of course I'm going to need a diagnostic. This is a lot to pass over to this method, but okay. Now what we want to do is say what I did previously. Sorry about the bright screen. This is using something called Rosling Quoter. And so what I said is, well, hey, I've got var x is equal to some value here. How do I actually make that? And as you can see down here, this is where you get a literal expression. So it's 1, 2, the text, and then the value. Ah, great. It just never ends, does it? So what we want to say here is detect offers spaced literal, context, root, diagnostic. Now what we want here is literal information, create separated with a spacing size of 2 string, because that gives you the actual new one, and then we just do a 2 string on it. Literal node. Yes, but I like putting that there as well. And then we'll stick that there and there. And then we need, this is 2. And then we'll do 4. Otherwise, we'll do 3. All right. Now the problem, though, is this. We want a literal expression of a syntax kind And it's a numerical literal expression. And so then we give a literal. But they all assume a value. And I don't know what the value is going to be. Actually, I do. Good thing I just realized that. New literal text. Literal node token value. Except it doesn't know how to convert it. That's just the text. But you can't put that in. Yeah, because this is not a string literal token. See a string literal token, but there's no. You get a numeric literal token, but that's tokens with text. You just know it's a numeric, but you don't know which type it is. So that doesn't really help. We could say here int, and then it all goes away, but it could be an int, it could be an unsigned int, it could be a long, an unsigned long, it could be a double, it could be a float, you know, it could be any of these. And so a syntax factory literal expression that takes a token, which we want a, yeah, there's no literal. There's no overload of this to say, here's the actual just value, take it. You have to cast it to, well, actually, yeah, there's ulong, uint, long, int, float, double, decimal. Those are the only ones that we'd ever care about. So this is going to look messy. Var literal token type is equal to that. So actually here, I wonder if we can do this. If we could say literal token type select. Or I'm sorry, switch. Double. Okay, I just want to get the syntax down first. Oh, yeah. Can I do this? Nope, you can't switch on that. Well, that sucks. Hey, Mitch. I didn't think you could do that. But it was worth a try. Yeah, we don't have the else. I'm trying to find a clever way to do this. We could do that and then just say if it's a uint, then we do that. Else, if it's a long, this feels really ugly, but I can't think of another way to do this. So, then float double decimal, right? Else, throw new not supported exception. The type literal token type name is not supported. Whoops. Yeah, no way you don't like about this. Cannot convert from target type conditional expression to int. Oh, God. Oh, yeah, that's right. These are all different types, so they won't work in a ternary. Yikes, this is going to look ugly. But we don't have a choice. If you know, sometimes you just have to write nasty code. This should be a literal expression syntax, right? Yeah. Now we just repeat this ad nauseum. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get to 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Gross. But I can't think of another way to do this. I was thinking, could I somehow use like a local method using a generic? But I can't because this is a type of. This is not, I can't, Well, I could bind I could like get reflection that method, and yeah, it just there's no way around this. This is just ugly. I mean, what I could get is a syntax token. And then say new literal token and take away some of the pain here of just saying that. And now if it's a uint, we say u, else if literal token type is, oh, this would be a long. So we say a long. Else if it's a u long, we make it a u long. Else if it's a float, we float. Else if it's a double, we double. Decimal, we decimal. Else we're going to do this last part here, which is that should not be supported. And then now we can come back here and take that code and we can say var new literal node is equal to that. And we can say new literal token. There. Now we're done. That's gross, though. Might not have to be strongly typed. Syntax kind. Public static. Get literal expression token kind. What is get literal expression token kind? I mean, you caught my attention. Public static literal expression syntax literal expression. Sorry, I'm looking at your code and I'm trying to figure out how. I get it that it's from the Roslyn GitHub, but I don't understand how that actually helps me, though. I'm not saying it doesn't. I just don't. I don't quite get. Well, I could, yeah, okay, fine. I could do... a syntax factory literal expression. Choose your literal expression. There's a syntax token. And then there's a syntax kind. Right. But then you could say with token, if you just did that, you still have to give the token. I mean, if you said it's a if you say it's a numeric literal token, that's fine, but you still have to give the new value. So I don't see how you can get around this. Again, I'm not saying you're not onto something, Mitch. I just don't see what it is. Because again, the thing that I'm trying to replace is a literal expression syntax. And what I also want to do creates a token with kind numeric literal token. See, the problem that I'm missing here is like I can't do a wither on it. You can't just change the value either because they're all immutable. So to be honest, I'm not sure how it works. Yeah, I because I want to get a literal expression here, I have to pass in the syntax kind of it, which in our case would be a numeric literal expression. And then I have to give a syntax token. There's an override, and you just give the syntax kind, but that doesn't really help because then you're not saying, well, what is the value of this literal expression? And so you have to give it a token. The token I want to give is a literal token, a numeric literal token. And so in that case, then what I need to have is this new literal token. The problem is that there's no overload to say, give it an object value. So yeah, I'm kind of like, I don't know how to get around that. Now this is a numeric literal expression. I'm assuming that means just the numbers because you see a string literal, you see a char literal, true and false literals. This is just numbers. So I'm assuming it's just the number ones, and we should never get to a not supported exception here. Again, I don't like this code. It's kind of ugly, but it gets us to what we want. Now, I'm at the point where I need to actually now write the code that does the separators, which I've totally ignored up until this point. So that's what this create separated does. And so we need to change whole part and fractional part. And then we need to pass those in. So we need to have our new whole part, which we're just going to assign to this right now. And a new decimal. No, why would I need a new fractional? Thank you. New whole. Now, fine. We still keep passing the buck, which is we need a way to say, how do we if we have something, for example, like a number like this, and it's not hex, what we want to do is say we want to separate it like this. Okay. But we don't want to be too stupid about this. We got to be sure that we're working from here over. But we could also have, and now what I would think we would want is something like this. Maybe that's ugly, but that's what I'm thinking we want to do. And I was thinking about this last night, and I was wondering, well, could we have a method that says, take the chars, a list of chars. We don't want the chars from the string as like an array because we're going to need to put stuff in. And we're going to want to work from the right to the left, because if we insert, that pushes the other characters over, but we don't care. It doesn't affect the order of the index. If you go from left to right, which the camera's reversing, I'm thinking from my perspective, and you go like over, and then you put one of those in, that now pushes the other characters over, and you want to make sure that now you actually hop to the next index. Where I think if you go from right to left and you partition your for index value correctly so that you take into consideration if you're going to have like things left over at the beginning. And then this you would pass in as a reverse list. You take the list of characters you get back and you reverse it back. So we could have like a static list of chars. This may not be memory performant, but we're trying to just be correct in the code. We can optimize it later. It's for exercise for the interested reader. This may not be the smartest way to do it, but whatever. Separate characters, and then we want to uint spacing size. Now I think you can do that. Yeah, because this will be local to this, and you have to pass in this to this. So with the whole part, what we're going to want to do is say string.create. Oh, that's right. They didn't add that later. New string. Fine. You can pass in an array of chars, right? Yes. So we're going to want to say separate characters. And we want a list of char. Actually, we can take advantage of the fact that list is mutable. So we don't need to do, well, we do. I'll show you why. List to char, chars. I can't think of a better name. And so we're going to say separate the chars out of this that whole part. To char array. Oh. Nope, that doesn't work. Yeah. This feels nasty. What is the problem here? Oh. There. All right, now give me all the optimizations. There. Ugly, but so now we want to do the same thing here. I think you're always going to have a whole part. I don't think you can do something like var x is equal to 0.3d. Oh yeah, you can. So that is actually perfectly reasonable. So what we want to do is we want to say we want to say this dot whole part length is greater than the spacing size. If that's true, then we'll do this. Otherwise, we just give whole part back. And we'll say this is spacing. So this ensures, now of course we're going to have to swap out length. No. This. Actually, I like putting that at the... No, not that at the end. This. Some people don't like ternaries. I actually do. Okay, so we're getting closer-ish. We keep passing the buck, but I think these abstractions are better. Now what we have to do is be a little bit careful, because we want to say that what we're passing in is this. And then what we take here, we want to reverse back. Why didn't you like that? What is reverse? Reverse? Oh, okay. Reverse is in place, it gives a void back. Flip. It just keeps getting better, doesn't it? Well, it's because we have an IEnumerable here. Now it would work. Okay, we still are not returning anything, but this reverses the extension method. So in this case, we're gonna reverse on the fractional part. We're gonna reverse it so the same logic can be applied, and then what comes out of it, we have to reverse back. Again, is this memory absolutely like performant? Probably not, but we're dealing with small like characters and lists, and again, I don't find this to be the most wonderful thing in the world to use here, but I'm more interested in getting the work right rather than am I doing too many allocations here. That comes later. You know, thinking, could you do a span on this? The problem is that you're changing what the content is, so you need something that you're able to actually change, and so. Though I just had a revelation. I am the third. Why did I suddenly think of there will be blood? I drink your milkshake. That was a totally random reference that just went plowing through my head. Maybe we can. Well, the problem is that we do want to go in a certain direction. Maybe I can do this with a span. So here's the thought that I had is, and I can't really illustrate this greatly in code, but let's say I had a span of 5 characters. So I had 3, 4, 1, 2, 6, 2. Okay, now that's the whole part. So what I want to do is just do an indexer to say, like a for loop or something like that, to say, okay, look at what we actually want to do is look at the last character. We want to go down. And so maybe there's a way that I just say, hey, if I want to do it reversed, you know, I would actually go from the right to the left. If I want to do it the other way, I go left to the right. So either way, let's just say that let's just say I do this, so I'm reversing it. So I look at the first character and I say, okay, its position mod, the spacing size is not 0. Well, it would be 0. Well, no, it wouldn't, because it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're going the other way. So this is technically 0. So we want to say if we put it so this will be 0, 1, 2, 0. So if it's spacing size is 3, if this gives you 3 minus, if it gives you the spacing size -1, then you would put the character plus a separator. So what we produce is 2, 6, 1 has the need for a space. So we put that in there. 4 doesn't, 3 doesn't, and we fall off the end. We reverse it, we get 3, 4, space, 1, 6, 2, which is what we want. From Morocco, hey, that's a new one. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by. So the thing with this is we could get a read-only span of the string as it is, and then we could just have something to say, are we walking the string in reverse or are we going forward? And if we're going reverse, then we just create the new string characters. We add them. We just have to make sure that at the end we say reverse it. And then we produce the new list or the characters. I like that. Can we, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this here, but if I say this whole part as read, I can say as span, and that will give me read-only span, which makes sense because you can't change the characters with that. So that actually makes sense. So what we could do is change this a little bit and say read-only span of chars. And what we want to return here is a char array. Okay, so now this changes stuff. We now want to say we're going to separate the characters, and what we're going to do is we're going to say whole part as span, giving a spacing size, bool in reverse. Now the whole part would be true. We do want that to be in reverse. Now we don't need that, and that works. Okay, now here we're actually going to go the other way, so we don't need to. And we go false. That actually, I think, works out a lot better. And what we could have is a var new chars is equal to a new list of chars. But I'm wondering, could we be a little bit smart here and go, what would be the actual size of it? New. So what we could say here is we want a new char array of the char's length plus, this is wrong, but we say, well, if you had 5 characters, like you do up above, and you have a spacing size of 3, you know you're going to add an extra character. If you have 6 characters and you have a spacing size of 3, you're going to add only 1, because we're not going to put one at the end or the beginning or however you want to say it. So if we can figure out what the actual length of the char array is, then we reduce the allocations that, because if we make a list, we can pass in a capacity size, and that will make the internal array, because if you look at the list type, it actually uses an array internally, and then if you're about to go over the size, it does fancy stuff to reallocate, preserve what you have, so then you don't have to think about that. But I'm thinking in this case, there probably is a mathematical way just to figure out, well, how many separators are we going to add here? So I'm not going to get that done in this stream. In fact, I'm going to stop here, but I do kind of like the way this is going. because I like that we're using read-only span. We're not going to do another char allocation from the string. We're just going to get a span on it, and we're just going to read the characters, and then we'll put in the characters where we need them. The only thing I don't like no, that should work. We don't need to reverse anything. This should, if I do it right, if I need to reverse it, I walk from the back and I go up to the front. If I don't reverse it, I go from the front to the end. But either way, where the spacers are put in should be correct. I just need to make sure I do the logic. And at this point, I do have to get to my day job, which is over there. And this is going to take a little bit of brain power, at least for me, to make sure that I do this correctly. But I kind of like this. We do have the to-do in here now. And we'll leave this as an error because that... let's actually commit all this. Starting to work on code fix. Doesn't compile. Working on it. Save. All right. Excuse me. I am going to put in an issue to transpire if I don't have an issue already, to make the shared project a true project and something of its own, and that it's referenced by the other two projects, and it will be in the package correctly, which that's kind of the trickier part. It's not hard. You can do it. I just have to, when you package this stuff up with analyzers and code fixes in a NuGet package, it gets a little squirrely. But this is what I'm going to work on next time. I'm going to think about this and go, how can I do this so that I get this to work correctly and I minimize as many allocations as I can. But I think this is the right direction to go. We need to do allocations. We need to make a new character array because we just do when we make a new string. But at least now we don't have to allocate another char array from the string we currently have. And we're just going to read the characters out of it. And we know we should be able to figure out what the size of the new string will be. So that's good. So I'm going to stop here. I want to thank everybody who's been watching, and either live or in the future. If you have not subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. Greatly appreciate it. Hit my first goal of 1,000, but any new subscriber helps. So thank you in advance for doing that. I will probably do another live coding, random code stream, maybe Thursday morning, but then definitely this weekend sometime, and continue working on this because I really do want this to be done. I got other stuff to do, and I want this feature to be finished-ish, at least be demo feature enough if I need to show this somewhere. But I also want to get a 1.0 release of this library out. So I will be doing another random code stream in the future. I'm also doing a Halo Combat Evolved playthrough gaming stream tonight. That's 7 p.m. Central-ish. So if you want to watch that, feel free to join. Stop by and join and say hi. But with that, I am going to end this stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.